I have a confession to make this morning that will absolutely horrify anybody that makes their living in the mental health space, the therapy space, or if they sell pills to people for a living. It'll certainly trigger anybody that has a financial interest in those particular industries. Nonetheless, I've got 31 years in the trenches experience as a person, an entrepreneur. I've hired literally close to 600 people throughout my business career. As a professional hockey coach, amateur hockey coach, I was thinking about it the other day. I've literally recruited and coached players from the age of 16 to 21, then the pro age, 21 to as high as age 35. So really, in business and in pro sport, and now as a father of an 11-year-old daughter, I have for the last 3 decades dealt with the age group of age 4. I have kids that are age 4 and 5 in my power skating school program. So age 4 and 5 all the way to age 40. And I've been doing it anywhere from 30 years in business to 22 years in coaching hockey. That's a lot of experience and data that I make this statement. Genius is as common as dirt. Genius is as common as dirt. That statement goes against everything that's being sold in society. It goes against everything that's being sold in our schools. It goes against everything you listen to on anti-social media. It goes against everything that we hear as parents, as small business owners, as entrepreneurs in 2024. Literally in my 31 years of coaching, teaching, hiring people, dealing with thousands and thousands of people from every walk of life, white, black, young, old, somebody, nobody, athletes, employees, managers, children, you name it. Thousands of people from every walk of life. The advantage, the disadvantage, different cultures, different languages. The one thing that always struck me is that genius is as common as dirt. So what the hell do I mean genius is as common as dirt? Aren't we told that almost nobody is gifted, almost nobody is a genius? Well, here I'll tell you something from the trenches. In my 31 years of working with thousands of people, entrepreneurs, hockey players, athletes, parents, children down to the age of 4, my experience over the last 3 decades is this. Almost nobody out of those thousands and thousands of people and athletes and entrepreneurs, almost nobody out of that entire audience is what people would call gifted or talented. Almost nobody. I'll put myself in that bucket. I'm not gifted. I'm not talented. So also the flip side of dealing with thousands of people is I realize that almost nobody is gifted or talented. But the other flip side of that coin is almost nobody, and I mean almost nobody that I've dealt with in every walk of life, is what I call, or what they would be labeled today as, learning disadvantaged. In other words, they have a learning disability. And that's our whole world now. That's our entire world in our schools. That's our entire world. Are you kidding me? We've got, close to half of our children are medicated from the cradle to the grave now. But my experience has been the exact opposite of what the pill sellers would like to tell you as a parent. All of the stuff that you're told about talented and gifted and learning disabled and the whole gamut, the whole billion-dollar industry, the big machine. My experience has been the exact opposite. But here's the thing. Genius is as common as dirt. And when I learned this was when I was actually in university. I had this amazing summer job where for 3 summers I worked at the local high school. When it was summertime, I had the whole school to myself. And what was my job? My job was to work with 10 high-risk students for the whole summer. What the hell is a high-risk student? Well, this is back in the day, 30-some years ago. A high-risk student was a kid in the school, grade 9 to grade 12, who came from the worst background. They had the worst disadvantages. Basically the deck was stacked against them. And I remember the guidance counselor, when I would start every summer, he would give me a list of 50 high-risk students. Most of these kids weren't even going to school anymore. They couldn't find them. They were living with an aunt or an uncle or a grandfather. There was no father on the scene. These kids are involved in they've had problems with even though they're young offenders under the age of 18. They've had brushes with the law. Some of them were in group homes. Some of them were in foster care. Some of them were in youth detention facilities, which I worked at. I worked in university. One of my jobs was working at a group home for a while. I also worked in a youth closed detention center. So I have some background in kids that have the entire deck stacked against them. And I remember the guidance counselor would hand me like 50 files. And he'd say, if I were you, I'd pick the 10, only 10 students. He says, I'd pick these 10. And these were the 10 that had given him the least amount of trouble. So his off-the-cuff recommendation to me was, instead of doing what the program's for, which is to work with the 10 kids that are the highest at risk, to literally pull these kids or give them an opportunity they're never going to get anywhere, he was recommending I take the easy way out. That I phone it in over the summer. Here's the 10 kids. They're not actually bad kids. You'll have a great summer. So my relentless ways, I could never take the easy, I could never phone it in for these kids. So what I did instead is the 3 summers I ran it, so I worked with 30 kids, 10 years, 10 kids for 3 different summers. I would literally pick, because I'd interview these 50 kids before I picked the 10, and I would literally pick the most troubled or the most challenged, the kids that were the highest risk. Now, when I interviewed them, they had to be coachable. They had to have the right attitude, but I was looking for the kid who had the toughest time up to that point. So I took on the challenge. I did the opposite of mailing it in. I did the opposite of phoning it in. I wanted to help the 10 kids who had the toughest hand dealt to them. That's just my nature. And it's amazing, these guidance counselors would then hand me these files, 50 files, like literally 3 feet of files. You know what I did with those files when I was picking the 10 kids each summer? I didn't do anything with them. I didn't even look at them. And it was interesting because I was reading Jimmy Johnson's Dallas Cowboys Turning It Around book at the time. And thank goodness I was. Because Jimmy, in his book and in Dallas, he didn't give a shit whether a person was black, white, rich, poor, somebody, nobody. You could either play the game or you couldn't. And I learned so much from this book where instead of opening up those files, what are they full of? They're full of the misery of the last 16 or 17 or 18 years of their life. You know, their moms, their dads, the group homes, the criminal charges, all of that shit. And the learning disabilities and the medications. So instead, I took a page out of Coach Johnson's book and I said, I'm not going to look at the files. I'm never going to look at these files. I'm going to interview these kids and I'm going to give it the Bill Parcells. I'm going to go on what I see. I'm going to go on what I see. In other words, these teenagers have a 100% clean slate. I don't care. Somebody, nobody, black, white, rich, poor, I don't care. And the only thing I want is I want to help the person the 10 kids that need the help the most and want it. They gotta want it. So I did this for 3 summers and I had a 70% success rate. You know what the counselors and the principal and the teacher said? Well, Michael, if you can help 30% of these kids, 3 kids every summer, that's a massive win. That's the industry success. That's the mental health. That's the therapy. That's the public education. If you can just help 3 out of 10, you're a stud. So I'm so glad I didn't have any experience in teaching school. I'm so grateful that I didn't look at these files and all the labels that were placed on these children. They had a tough enough life without being labeled since they were age 3. So I would work with these kids every summer with a clean slate. And it was interesting. At the end of the summer, and it was 3 years, 7 kids made it through. That means 7 kids I had to broom out of the program for whatever reason, couldn't be on time, didn't show up for their work program. They had to work as part of this program, whatever it was. And it's just amazing. They couldn't believe that I had a 70% what they would call a success ratio. I don't know how you did it, Michael. Those kids are no damn good. I don't know how you do it with that kid's mom. Or I don't know how you do it with dealing with a grandmother. And I was like, I don't even know who you're talking about. I don't know how you got through to a kid with that severe learning disability. And admittedly, I didn't know anything about ADD and ADHD or whatever the hell it's called. I just took these children at face value. If they worked hard, if they listened, if they were coachable, I literally treated them as well as my amateur hockey players, my pro hockey players, the same as I would treat a manager that worked at one of my companies. So instead of me lowering my standards or getting sucked into reading files, I just gave each of these kids a clean slate, and I did exactly what Bill Parcells did taking over a last place NFL football team. He didn't watch game film. He didn't look into the files. He didn't look into the scouting reports. When Parcells would take over the Jets or the Patriots or the Cowboys, he threw all that shit in the trash, and everybody had a clean slate. Now, if you didn't take advantage of that clean slate, that's your own damn fault. And 30% of my kids didn't take advantage, but 70 did. But he just went on what he saw. If you could help the Cowboys or the Patriots or the Jets win, if you were coachable, if you were a team first guy, hey, where you played college or what happened last year or what happened a week from then, or had no impact whatsoever on Parcells. Jimmy Johnson was exactly the same. Just exactly the same. I don't care what state you grew up in or what neighborhood or all the problems your dad has had, none of it. So this, working with these kids who are supposed to be, they're all labeled. Like, I don't put labels on kids. I got 31 years. I've been coaching kids age 4 to adults at 40. And I can't remember any time that I ever labeled a kid other than, you're a winner. You're a winner. But as far as the toxic rat poison, the other stuff, you put a label on a 4-year-old or you put a label on a 5-year-old, that's like rat piss for the rest of their life. They get medicated. They put them on these, especially young little boys, they put them on these meds that turn them into drones, that turn them into zombies. There, he's better behaved now. But there's no exit to this stuff. They're medicated for the rest of their life, cradle to grave. Cradle to grave. And I remember my executive assistant, Leanne, saying to me a couple winters ago, I was doing the hockey program for high-risk kids, low-income families. So I go on the ice every Sunday. Some of these kids couldn't afford equipment. It was the Junior Blue Wings program. I'd pay sometimes they couldn't even pay the registration. Nobody even knew. I ran this program for the 7 years I owned the Perth Blue Wings. I ran this not-for-profit program, hockey program, every Sunday morning for kids low income. Hockey is like football. It's so expensive. A pair of skates is $1,000. Equipment is a couple $1,000. Those hockey sticks now are like $180, $300. So it's become a upper middle class to affluent sport. So I'm always thinking, how can I serve other people? So when I bought the hockey club, one of the things, and I got the players involved, is every Sunday I coach this group of kids. And it would be about 50 kids, and then by the end of the year, it'd be about 30 kids if we were lucky. Mom and dad, they can't show up once a week. But these incredible children, and I forgot all about it. So when I went out on the ice every Sunday and blew my whistle, I never once thought for a second that these kids were low income. It never crossed my mind, because Jimmy Johnson and Bill Parcells and the greats had taught me not to. And I'd be halfway through the season and these kids are excelling, not because of me. They're excelling because they're working their asses off. They're learning some structure. They're learning some discipline. They're getting some fitness. They're getting off the screens. They're out on the ice with their junior hockey heroes, kids that they can look up to. It's a win-win for everybody. And I remember Leanne coming up to me about a year ago, and she said, I can't believe how well this kid's doing. And I'm not going to say his name, but I said, oh, he's one of the most coachable kids we have. And again, I got no files. I just know their name because it's taped on their helmet. I don't give a shit who mom is. I don't care who dad is. I don't care what their last name is. I just go on what I see. She said, and Leanne has young kids, right? So she goes, oh, that kid, he's got a severe learning disability. And he's been in like 5 different schools. This kid is like maybe 10 or 11, my daughter's age. And she's like, he's got severe this, severe. I didn't even know what the fuck she's talking about. And I was like, man, he's a great kid. He's a great kid to coach. And he has a zone of genius. So what'd I say? I said that in all my years of coaching and hiring people and being a husband and a father, nobody's special. Almost nobody I've worked with is special. I got guys that got 40 million bucks in the bank, but they're not special. And they'd be the first guys to tell you they're not. They're not. They have a zone of genius. They have one or two things that they're good at that they really, really, really developed over the course of the year. And they do those things all the time. That's their zone of genius. But here's the thing. Everybody has at least one thing that they're nearly world class at. I have like maybe 2 or 3 things that I'm world class at. Now, I wasn't world class at them until I had a coach or a mentor wake me up and say, listen, Michael, you've really got a knack for marketing. So start reading every book, get serious about learning as much as you can about marketing and advertising. And then I had some people say to me, some great people, influencers, say, you know, I think you would be a great salesperson. So get serious about developing that gift that you have. You might, that's one of your, that's something that could be your craft or your art. And I got busy reading hundreds and hundreds of sales books, and more importantly, selling door to door. I started at age 12. So my point is, you know, all these labels and all this toxic rat poison and all these medications and all this mental illness and teen suicide rates, the highest in history. I'm here to tell you that I haven't worked with anybody in the last 30 years in all walks of life who didn't have at least one world-class talent that could be developed. That's the secret. It has to be developed. But I never ran into any hockey players that were the next Wayne Gretzky or the next Connor McDavid or the next Tom Brady in foot. None. But I also almost never worked with a player, an employee, a manager, a child, an adult who I would have stopped and said, they have a learning disability or they can't learn. I just didn't. And this is coaching and teaching. You as an entrepreneur, a small business owner, you're a coach. If you have an employee, you need to be a coach. If you're a father, you're a coach. If you're married, you're a coach. If you're part of raising funds in the community, you're a coach. So, you know, people like to also put these gifted labels on children. Well, as soon as they put a gifted label on somebody who's in grade 2 or grade 3, all of a sudden, that becomes what? A self-fulfilling prophecy. In other words, that kid is treated gifted by teachers, by counselors, by the principal, and 10, 12 years later, they're still labeled as gifted, but it's actually an insult. I've had a few people say to me early on, they don't say it anymore, oh, you know, maybe Emery's gifted. Well, Dan Lazonis and I, we laugh out loud when we hear that. No, she's not. And it's a fucking insult when you put that label on a child, because it insults the fact that it's all been about hard work. If my daughter is good at a handful of things, and once again, her zone of genius, she's probably good at 2 to 3 things where it comes easy and she's developing it over time. So if she's good, if she's world class at a couple of things, it's because of the damn work. It's not because she's gifted. She's not gifted. She just has a clear head. She works every day at a couple of things that she's her zone of genius. And her genius is as common as dirt. Your genius is as common as dirt. If I talk to you for 5 minutes about your business or about your life, I can damn well tell you that it'll take me less than 5 minutes to figure out what your world-class talent is. Oh, I don't have any talent. Bullshit. I'm a grinder. I'm a fourth liner. My dad called me a ham and egger. A ham and egger. Okay? A ham and egger. But even I have a couple of gifts that, no, I'm not gifted. These are talents that I've developed. And the same for you. There's one or two things that come easy to you, that you love, you enjoy, you cannot not talk about it. These are things that you lose track of time when you're doing them. You love them so much, they give you goosebumps. You cannot not talk about them. Now, you may not be spending any time on these, but this is your own fault. But one of the greatest gifts I was ever given was learning what my life purpose was: to coach, to teach, to help people make money. So I cannot not do it. You know, it's not like I chose this life. It's like this life chose me, and I've gone with it, whether I'm coaching hockey or coaching kids or coaching entrepreneurs. But genius is as common as dirt. But you don't see kids in school being told, you know what, you've got genius potential in this one area, or you've got genius potential in this area. Could you imagine what that would do for millions and millions and millions of North American children at the age of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? If we had educators and we had counselors and we had sports coaches and we had people in the church who told kids, you know what? You've got some incredible ability in this one or two area. If you're willing to develop it over the next several years, you can make something of this. That's every human being I've worked with has at least one area of genius, and it's as common as dirt. Sure, there's the great, the Elon Musk and the Steve Jobs and the Einsteins and the Mozarts and all that stuff. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm talking about how I've worked with thousands and thousands of people from every walk of life, especially people that lost the lottery. They were born into families with shitty parents, absent dads, drug abuse, mental abuse, and in spite of it, I was able to reach them because it almost became a self-fulfilling prophecy. If I had treated them, and this is Jimmy Johnson's basis for all his Hall of Fame coaching, is if you treat a football player, or you treat a student, or you treat an employee, or you treat your child as they are, just as they are. If you read the file, he can't learn, she's got a learning disability, he comes from a bad family, he can't do this, he can't read, he can't be successful, he can't be wealthy. If you treat them as they are, they will what? They will remain as they are. That's a proven study. That's psychology 101. But Jimmy said, if I do the exact opposite, and that athlete and that player or that person or that son or that daughter, if I treat them as I see them becoming, in other words, that higher frequency self, that best version of themselves, that absolute, best version of themselves in the future, they become that. They become that. He gave the example of watching Emmitt Smith, and he treated Emmitt Smith as a rookie. He envisioned him as a Hall of Famer, a Hall of Fame running back, Super Bowl champion. And he used to talk to Emmitt about becoming this athlete and the hard work that it would take. But Jimmy planted seeds. Troy Aikman, those young studs when they were part of that Herschel Walker deal, they got their asses kicked in Dallas for a year or two. And then 2 years after that, back-to-back Super Bowls. So it wasn't like there was instantaneous success. Johnson plants seeds about who the person can become, and then he treats them like that person, that high frequency, high standard person, and they become that person. because he believes in it. He believes in that person. He believes in that vision. Compare that to sticking labels on children or sticking labels on athletes or whatever it is. Seeing people as the way they are and treating them the way they are, they're just going to stay the same or get worse. But if you have that vision that, hey, there's some genius underneath there. There's some talent underneath there. There's some obsession and passion. If I can just pull that out of that person, and then they can get serious about developing. They've got to do the work. You don't become a copywriter just because you have talent. You got to develop the talent. Gary Halbert developed his talent. Dan Kennedy developed his talent. John Carlton developed his talent. Tony Robbins developed his talent. Elon Musk developed his talent. And you just go through the long list. But genius is as common as dirt. But the reason that that's so offensive or so horrifying to the teachers and the counselors and the pill sellers and the therapists and the whole mental health industry is the fact that they don't want to believe in everybody. They are a solution looking for a problem. They are a solution looking for a problem. They are a solution looking for a problem. Instead of the exact opposite, which is, wow, that's your zone of genius. Wow, you're an incredible, you could be an incredible chess player. Do you know anything about the game? Wow, I've never seen anybody draw like that freehand. Wow. Man, oh man, you can really tell a story. You could be a powerful, powerful motivational speaker. Wow, I've never seen somebody your age fix cars like that. Wow, are you ever good with a hammer? Man, can you ever build those kitchen cabinets? That's an incredible trade. Wow, you're an incredible judge of character. You can read people. You would make a fantastic coach or teacher or manager of people. Wow. Man, oh man, you just seem to be able to write emails and tell stories, and if you develop that, you could teach other people how to market and advertise. Wow, you're an incredible, incredible salesperson already. That's where you need to really develop and focus. It's your passion, it's your obsession, it's your zone of genius. 31 years of working with every type of person, every type of age, somebodies to nobodies, and almost nobody that I dealt with is special or is gifted. They all are geniuses. They all have a zone of genius, but I've never labeled them gifted. Oh, it comes easy to him. My daughter's a hell of a hockey player. Oh, it comes easy to her. No, it doesn't. It took every day for it to come easy. She's a plugger like me. And the other side of that, working with thousands of people, is I've almost run into nobody that can't learn. It's just, maybe they're a visual learner. Maybe they're an auditory learner. They learn by hearing. Or like most people that they've sewn on the label, learning disabled, can't learn, ADHD. Those are kinesthetic kids. What's kinesthetic kid? A kinesthetic kid or a football player or a manager or a son or a daughter is a person who has to be physically shown how to do something. So when I used to coach hockey, and to this day with my webinars, my masterminds, I know that I have kinesthetic men, I have visual learners, and I have auditory learners. I'm a visual learner. You might be an auditory, you have to hear it. So whenever I teach hockey or I teach skating or I teach marketing, webinars, masterminds, whenever I speak at a charity function, whenever I talk to my wife or my daughter, I'm aware that everybody learns in a different way. So what do? When I'm up in front of the locker room, I tell my players what I want. That's for the auditory guys. I show a visual slide of it on the whiteboard. I draw it or show a slide or a video, because 80% of my athletes are going to be what? Visual. No learning disability, they learn by seeing. If I don't show it to them, they can't comprehend it. And the big one that the school system blocks all the time. Great coaches like Coach K and Scotty Bowman and Jimmy Johnson. These guys know that your best athletes, some of the best athletes that are coming to them labeled as learning disability, he can't go to your school, he can't learn, he's no good, he comes from the other side of the tracks. They're just kinesthetic people. In other words, their learning way is they need to be shown. So when you go to a Nick Saban practice or a Bill Belichick practice, you'll see those guys stopping practice and taking the wide receiver or the linebacker or the offensive lineman, and they'll stop, they'll grab the young man by the shoulder, and they'll walk him through the route. They'll walk him through the route. This is what, he doesn't tell him, he doesn't show him visual, he walks him through. This is exactly what you need to do with your feet. This is what this play looks like. Here's how this is your route. And that's how I can always tell an incredible coach, whether it's tennis, pickleball, weight training, skating, baseball, is they figure out how the person learns. And in a team sport, they communicate all three ways. They say it, they show it, and they make their kinesthetic people do it. That's how a Bill Parcells, that's how a Nick Saban, that's how they coach these kids up. Oh, he can't learn. He's got a learning disability. Oh, he's got ADHD. Bull fucking shit. You can't fucking coach. You can't teach. You can't influence, and you can't do the job. A great coach, a great teacher, a great consultant, a great employee, an entrepreneur, a great husband, a great father, they find the genius in every person. And if you can't find it, that's on you. It's as common as dirt. It's common as dirt. Oh, she's gifted. She's a pleasure to work with. Oh, he's gifted. Oh, Emmett Smith's gifted. Oh, Patrick Mahomes is gifted. Yes, he is. But 99.9% of people just need a coach or a mentor in their life that finds something in them and lights that fire when everybody has doused it, and somebody to put an arm around somebody or a hand on their shoulder and say, you know what? You could do something with this. You're special in this one area. You have potential genius in this one area. If you're willing to read 100 books and listen to 100, you know what? You could do this. You could do this. That's your one or two zones of genius. Get busy becoming world class. Get busy becoming world class. But that's work. It's so much easier just to stitch on a label, right? She can't learn. He can't learn. 70% success ratio 3 years in a row with kids who had everything stacked against them. I never talked about their parents. I never talked about their friends. I never talked about anything that happened to them up to that point. But I'll tell you right now, every second I had those kids for 3 months, I talked about one thing: winning. Health, fitness, the way you dress, punctuality. I treated them like a CEO would treat his Fortune 1000 employees. I treated these children like, they were Dallas Cowboys, or I treated them like they were CEOs. And because I treated them like professionals, like geniuses, like pros, guess the result I got from almost all of them. The environment screamed professional. The way I spoke to them, the language spoke winning. I treated these kids like the God-given gifts that they are. You don't throw away people. You don't label people. You don't medicate people unless it's necessary. You don't throw away people. You look for the one or two things, their zone of genius. You find it. You encourage it. You inspire it. You help it. Everybody on this planet has a special zone of genius, and 99% of it is extinguished by lousy coaches, lousy parents, lousy teachers, lousy guidance counselors, bought and paid for therapists, pill sellers, and everybody, all those mouthpieces in the mental health industry. I put together what I think is the greatest free gift I've ever done. And you can get it by going to brassballsvideos.com. The link is below. It's free. And when you put in your email, I just put together one of the most powerful trainings I've ever put together. It's a printable PDF. It's free. And it's the 5 ways you can unfuck your life in the next 30 days. That's the biased and unwelcome title. And literally, it's a 5-page PDF, crib sheet, ebook, whatever you want to call it. It's 100% meat and potatoes. The title again, The 5 Ways to Unfuck Your Life in the Next 30 Days. If you do just a couple of these things, 1 or 2 of these things, you'll transform your life. If you attack all 5 over the next 30 days, people will ask you what the hell happened. I think it's my most powerful writing up to date. The 5 things to unfuck your life in the next 30 days. I've used all 5. I used all 5 in the last 30 years to do exactly that, to fix my problem, my life in these areas. It's free. You can print it off, you can look at it on your phone. I don't give a shit what you do. But you got to give me your email at brassballsvideos.com, and I'll email it to you. I'm an email guy. Print it off, study it, share it with other people. I don't care what you do, but it's the truth. Those 5 things that I talk about are the 5 stories from my life, how I went from losing to winning. And my sport is winning. Michael, what do you do for a living? I get that all the time here at barbecues and pickleball games and meeting all these incredible people in Naples. Michael, what do you do for a living? I'm in the sport of winning. Boom. This PDF, this crib sheet, whatever you want to call it, it's my experience the last 31 years in business, in marriage, fitness, health, money, marketing. The 5 things, insider secrets nobody ever talks about to unfuck your life. That's a harsh title. I don't work with cupcakes. I don't work with people that stitch labels on children. I don't work with people that talk about gift it. I don't work with the politically correct. I work with champions. I work with rainmakers, contenders, ballers, kings and queens, not cupcakes and snowflakes. Get the free PDF, 5 ways to unfuck your life. Brassballsvideos.com. Remember what my dad says, son, stick with it, the best is yet to come. Stick with it, the best is yet to come. Get out there this week and find ways to encourage, inspire, and label people with their genius. Man, you've got some talent in that area if you go to work. Find the genius in people as a leader, as a father, as a coach, as an employer. Find the genius in every person you meet and tell them about it. Plant seeds like Coach Johnson. Plant seeds like Coach Parcells. Tell them the best is yet to come if they'll do the work. Brassballsvideos.com. 2 words that change my life. 2 words that'll change your life. Be relentless.